Is this?
And
Oh, we are live. Does it say I'm live? Can you
I
see
don't
it?
know. Well, no, you have to, you got to add me in.
Yeah, I did already, I thought. Let's see. It says comments will appear here. So far, I'm
Oh, I
not
see.
sure anybody's with us. If I'm live right now, this is, oh, okay, somebody's here. Terrence, okay, we've got people. All right, did you receive an invitation? Oh,
Yeah, but I don't know if
it
that means
says,
I can
okay,
share my
it says you're watching. Now, how do we get you on here too? Hi, Lawrence. Do any of you know how to add another person on this screen? Not you, darling. I know you're here too. I set up this live stream in order to, and Maria Therese and I were going to do a joint call. And once again, we're trying to set up something where she can share the screen with me, except I cannot figure out how to do it. What the hell? Hi. I have no idea how to do this. Why? Okay, approve, yes.
Is there any options?
Add. How come I can't share the screen?
Oh, here we go. Here we go. Here we go.
Okay. Now listen, I'm going to have to put you in the other room. I see that you're here too. I thank you for your presence, but if you can't sit in my lap right now. You're going to go lay down.
Okay. Okay.
Oh,
We gotta.
yes.
We have to close out the other thing.
Okay. So if I'm on my computer, I should close that off?
Yep.
Okay. Leave meeting. You need to go lay down, not you. Just 1 second. Okay. All right. I guess we're all right. Yeah. Yeah. So it seems like your screen is frozen. I think it is. Can you see me? Did we lose her? Oh, maybe. And now it's just me again. Except my dog, who's trusty and always here. Listen, dog, you're going to have to, I love. See? Yeah, we were successful and it terminated. Add me in again. Hey, Calico. Let's see, where are we? Where are we? Hang on, I'm looking for it. Shoot! Ah! Sorry, just a second. Now, how do I get back to where I was? Oh, come on. What happened? Nope. Sorry. Still working on it. What happened to her? Oh, there she is. Add. On camera. Is she coming? It says adding. Connecting. Yes.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Oh, barely. 1 second. I'll see if I can pull it. Okay, say something again.
Can you hear me?
Yes, now I can hear you. Excellent.
Okay.
Hi.
Hi. I'm setting my my thing up too. Oh my God, that was so easy.
Was it? Okay, good. I'm glad you
Well,
thought.
no, I mean, we've been having all these technical difficulties and finally we have access. Oh, this is so fun.
Excellent. Okay. Groovy?
Okay, I can't see people's comments, but you can, yeah?
I can see people's comments, but it covers my face. But all right.
Okay.
We'll just go with it.
Okay. All right. Let's begin.
So we wanted to talk about, it's kind of a continuation of the call that we started the other day a little bit with Sarah Adams, where we're talking about developments in the financial system, and for some reason it always seems to have a note of discussion. It's like the twin flame discussion or balance of masculine and feminine winds up permeating every issue, even if it's not a twin flame discussion, somehow or another. There's always like an overtone or an undertone of that also. But basically, we're talking about the financial system and recent developments, because you are and Lawrence Wendell is also on the call. And sometime I think the three of us should have a conversation. Lawrence, I hope that's okay with you. I just invited you and assumed you'd be okay. But it's like a specialist topic. But he's on with us too, so I think that's beneficial energy already for this call.
Beautiful. Well, let's start with the divine masculine stuff, because that was kind of a big topic that you and I were actually talking about this morning, and this piece, because it does tie into work and money, and these old templates of doing, and having
Chasing
to
money.
force, yes, and that being like the only purpose for the masculine consciousness. It's like if they don't have work, or if they don't have career, or if they're not making money, it's almost like what's their purpose?
It's like a source of shame in the old template. It was a source of shame unless you have this like badge of honor where you're whatever.
Yeah. And, but it's also the number one thing that stresses them out the most, right?
Yes.
So it's like they don't want to live that way, yet they haven't, it's like we haven't programmed in a new template of masculine, because these old programs are still running within us as feminine as well, right? So we're responsible for clearing all of this stuff and reprogramming from within and finding new ways to do and be and live and prosper here in this experience. And so I know there was a lot of energy this week for a lot of people. And
changes. This week was huge for like multiple crossroads. It's like small crossroads, but a major pivot point that seems almost like the hub of a wheel, where so many things are shifting simultaneously. And this week did seem to be a real big whopper.
Yeah, and these, emotions coming up, and, like I was sharing with you earlier, I had received a text message from my father last night with very like projection energy, very deep wounds of, feeling abandoned and not feeling loved, but at the same time feeling stressed about work and money. And, he's projecting all of this onto me, and I just had to stay in my balanced space. It was like I didn't take any of it personally. I had to stay in my mastery, and I just had to know and trust that this had to come out, and I was the person that was holding the space and being the one to be projected on. But in no which way, shape, or form did I take that energy onto me. In no which way, shape, or form did I react to that energy. I simply stood in the absolute compassion and love that the feminine represents, of understanding and knowing,
Because
and
you were
I think
able to at this time.
Yes, and I think that's what a lot of us feminine are kind of being called to do now, on like another level of being empowered and strong, but remaining super compassionate and super loving, and in the absolute place of understanding, right? That the masculine has to come up and purge and let go of these like programs. And it's happening within us too. We're feeling it. I mean, I see posts from feminine all over the place that are like, oh, the energy's so heavy and it feels so masculine to me, and I'm purging this, and this is coming up, and it's just like, that's the heavy focus right now, is the masculine. But what we were just talking about right before this call, I said I was getting some awareness today on how this new masculine is rising up through the feminine first. So it's like this new template is being birthed through us. We're the ones who are like reprogramming this template, and it's coming up through us. And
like
so we are going to rise, which then brings, it's like through our power, our divine power, our balanced power, our love, our nurture, our compassion, they're seeing that, and that's gonna make them rise. We're gonna bring them into it. Those who aren't there, you
You know
know,
what it feels like? It feels like we went through a certain degree of the clearing first. And so energy takes the path of least resistance. That's the way it moves. It always moves. So it's not like we're trying to program the men, because I think that would, like, we could easily have a misconception there. It's more like we're just, because we cleared ourselves and did our work first, it's almost like we're able to help them just
hold that space,
create a pipe so that it can come out. We're feeling it move out through us because energy takes the path of least resistance. And it's like, while the dominant masculine, the old template is still in place, enough of it is still in place where it's like they've got all of these external walls of control that are still operational. So they're having a harder time expressing themselves. So it's like it has to come in, and we're flowing it out. Is because they're not able to do it yet because there's still too much compression in the external. You know what I mean? But I think that it's not like we're programming them, but we're just kind of affording them the freedom to allow it. And I do think that at some point, enough of the internal and external crap, enough of the compression is going to be released where they're going to have a little bit more freedom to move. And they're going to be, I'm going to finally, at some point, we're going to hear like actual expression from the actual people. As opposed to just saying, like, I feel like he has an emotion, because it's this weird, it's weird.
One thing I think we were talking about in one of our other calls was something about the masculine the masculine energy wanting to really break free. And, you know, because we are in tandem, right? We were talking about that. It's like, before it was kind of like, oh, the feminine was like way on some really like other timeline, and they were like way behind. But we've really kind of like bridged that gap down where we're really moving in tandem with each other. And it's almost like if one is stuck, the other is stuck, right? Or in some dynamic, where before it was like one would be off and flowing and free and this and that. But when you start really closing that gap and coming into balance and really mirroring each other, it's like, well, I can't move forward if you're not moving forward. Like, we got to move forward together. We got to like get in this balance. We got to get on the same page. And that happens within us first, right? And like so
there was a really long string that held together like these two, like the masculine was here and the feminine was here, but the string was really long between them. It's like a long piece of spaghetti that's being slurped from the middle. And for a while, it's like you can go off and you can do your own thing, and it feels like you have your own life, and that person is like way over there doing something. But now the string is like shorter and shorter and shorter, and so now it's like you can't, until your foot is not nailed to the floor anymore. If that person's stuck, the other body can only go so far now.
Exactly. Well, and, you know, and for us, for both of us who have had, you know, very significant walk-in experiences, you know, we have been up in 12 and having that union to really bring that down now, you know? And so now that it's actually coming into the body, it's like, like we gotta move in balance. We gotta move together. This energy that's now inside of my being, the masculine has to take action based on intuition now. You know, it's like the masculine energy, the actions are solely based off of that feeling, that feminine intuition, the spirit that is moving. You can't make any choices or decisions with the mind anymore when you're in union. It's like, it's because it's all one. It is spirit using the vessel. And that's where a lot of us are now.
There's no more avoiding it. It's like you can't get away. And it's in a way, it's like forced cooperation. Like it's kind of like a three-legged race, where now you've got like only so much of you can move separately. The center leg is joined, and you're just going to figure out how to move, or you're going to keep falling. That's the way it is.
Yeah, because, you know, and I'm noticing this with myself too. It's like, if I want to do something, it's like that free will choice really isn't there. Like, if it's not in alignment, if it's not an intuitive knowing that this is the way the stream is moving for me and through me, I can't just say, okay, I want to. Like, I have to listen to the inner now. Because if I go outside of the alignment, we're noticing the repercussions, and we're also noticing that it is holding us back. The more that we don't listen and follow the alignment within, the more we're just like going in that loop, right? Oh, back here again, because obviously I wasn't really listening.
Unavoidable. It becomes just unavoidable. And it's like you're gonna meet this problem until you solve it, and you've done everything else, and now there's just this one thing, and at some point all of your other choices are gone. If you're in this particular program, all of your other choices are gone. It's very much like being on a water slide. Well, there's really only one direction you're going to go. So that's that.
Now let's touch on the abundance piece, and not so much like the new financial system, but you know, for those who listen to, if anybody's on that listened to our previous live recording, and I was talking about a settlement amount that my grandmother had received through her divorce, and the amount was ironically $144,000, and that was the compromise. And it was like, oh well, this is purposeful, right? How synchronistic is that? But you know, what's interesting about that is that she hasn't even physically received the full settlement amount yet. So like the karmic paybacks still aren't here for a lot of us, you know, and we were just talking about that earlier. It's like we keep sitting in zero, we keep sitting in the empty space. We're being very obedient, we're staying as aligned as possible. But it's like we just keep getting thrown peanuts still. A lot of us.
So far.
You know? I mean, it's like, what's going on here? What's the holdup with the abundance piece for a lot of us who have been doing all of this work, right? And who stay in the stream.
Right.
There are things that we desire to do, or projects to work on, or a better home situation, or whatever have you, you know, but it's like we're still clearing these things.
And we are still waiting for, it's not like we're waiting, like we're not doing the work and not in service, because of course we're always doing the work, we're always in service. But like the larger work, there are certain larger things that so many of us have and we see it in the timeline. We know these things are coming in, and that's what contributes to a certain degree of impatience. Because we know on one hand how much better it is, and if we can just get there, and it's like being this close to shore. I'm like, what the hell is the holdup? It's right there, and the meal is ready, and we see it, and we're hungry. Let's go. So we are still waiting for those of us who in the collective who because we do need to move together. But you and I were talking, this was such an important point, that it's the same thing with receiving like a jackpot of money, like waiting for the money, or waiting for the twin, or waiting for some external thing to come, and for whatever. And you and I were talking about the necessity of being in such a place where, in order to receive it, this particular place, where in order to receive the money, you need to be, or the twin, you need to be in a space of neutrality, so that it's not going to affect you one way or the other, so that you're happy and in alignment. If you've got absolutely nothing, and you're going to remain in alignment and not be pulled out in any direction. If you receive a jackpot of $5 million, all of a sudden, there's a point of balance and neutrality and
That you
sovereignty,
have to
where
remain in.
you're going to remain the same no matter what the external circumstance is, so that in order to receive this next level of
Yes.
sovereignty, it's required that you remain in a space of neutrality and happiness, whether you're yes, what I'm going
Yeah.
to read you his comment in a second. Whether you have the bare minimum to get by or whether you have the jackpot. So what he's saying, if I can I flip this down? Lawrence Wellenville is on. He says the new definition of abundance is to have all one needs. It is man's desires and wants that come from ego desires that create separation. We must understand that freedom is born naked. And then it goes on, but I'm not going to read the rest of it. But I agree.
And that's just that's being in absolute pure presence of now,
yes,
as pure source, in absolute neutrality, in absolute balance. Because once we start placing any energy or attention on anything that's outside, it's taking us it's taking us out. It's taking us into separation. Yes. It's taking us back into duality. It's yes. taking us into that place of expectation, yes. right? Because you're wanting to receive, or you're waiting to receive, or you know something is on its way, so you're like anticipating right. It's coming. And so it's like the more that we sink deeper and deeper into that 0 point balance and that neutrality, it's like it doesn't matter about anything, nothing.
So I think that Lawrence brings up an interesting point where, like, I know that I was at a place 5 years ago where I was extremely keen and eager and excited, really excited to step up my next level of service. And what we needed at that time was a building. And we didn't have money for there's a certain point where living, there's a certain point of service where you actually do need a larger sum of money in order to step up and expand your mission. You can do it energetically. And I was talking about that in my live stream last night, like stepping up your next level of service by energetically affecting the world around you. There are ways to expand your service without anything financial. And also, I personally am very keen to have a larger amount of abundance, or whatever the abundance would actually get me. Like if somebody also just gave me a building and the
right.
the things, I could bypass the money completely. I'm open to receiving it any number of ways, but there does kind of come a point where it's like, okay, I do actually need something more that's
tangible
in substance. Yeah.
Where it's like
a way forward, or a plane ticket, something like that.
Well, it's like we have been so high in the dimensions and on the timelines and doing all of the energy work to bring it down into the physical. And so the more that we ground, the more that we anchor, the more that we're like, okay, we're present, we're here. We've come down from the 12th dimension. We've come down to do, some mission work. And it's like, okay, well, now what? And it's like, I can only go to the park every day so many times until it's like, why do I keep going to the park? Like, can I do something else? Right. Is there something else that's going to
additional?
Like I understand the balance and the flow, but in that too, it's like I want to engage in the physical world if I'm going to be in the physical world, but at the same breath, it's like that's not tangible yet.
Right.
It's kind of, and like you and I have talked about before, it's like kind of being in between worlds. It's like you're kind of in light body, still kind of floating around, trying to grab onto something, and there's nothing to grab onto. But right now, and that's what I think. This like masculine energy inside, it's like wants some consistency, wants some action, wants something to do, to feel, to focus on, to feel, and to create and to feel more, have more purpose. And because, and like you and I have talked about too, I used to do sessions. I used to do healing work. I used to do a lot of traveling and grid work and all of this stuff. Well, my assignment has changed. So I can't go back into those timelines and start doing all those things again if that's actually not what's in alignment with this new higher version or embodiment of myself. You know? So it's like, okay, well, come on, let's move here.
There is something about a higher level of service where I saw very clearly that when you step up in service, sometimes you need to stop doing what you were doing previously so that other people can step into that role that you previously held. Very much,
and that's what we're doing.
Yes, very much like doing individual session work. There are some people who never did individual sessions, who need to begin doing individual sessions, but that's still one-on-one. And like I know that recently I'm called, and I always have worked with groups, but recently I'm being called to reduce the number of individual sessions, and it's also happening automatically. Like there's this thing that, like,
you don't even have a choice.
It's dropping out, and my service work is actually reaching a larger number of people. There's a different geometry to it, and I know that I'm reaching more people, but I'm no longer performing the same kind of service that I used to do. It has just changed form, but it has changed and expanded. That's the thing. It's like not coming down.
Well, and I mean, you and we recently just connected, like a couple weeks ago, and the consistency of our connecting, you and I, and the consistency of us just being moved to do these live streams and these recordings. And I mean, we don't even think about it. It's like, okay, we got to go on. You know, and so it is
synchronicity. Yeah, and you and I get the same messages and mirror very, very closely, and it has been kind of short and intense. And the interesting thing is that I watched you on Facebook. I think you said the same thing. Like, we were in the same circles in the periphery. Like, I knew who you were and where you, whatever. And then one day it's just like, boom. Okay, march.
Yeah, we're just like thrown into it. Yeah. Just kind of like. And that's what I've been noticing a lot more too, is that I'm moved to do things that don't make sense. I'm moved to do things that I don't necessarily want to do, but I'm in that God consciousness of just being used as the instrument to get done whatever needs to get done, whether that's, you know, going into the bank and having to put some codes in the bank, or, you know, just these different little random things that don't make sense. It's like, okay, just use me for whatever I am to be used for.
There's and, you know, versatility. There's this divine versatility where you can do any number of things once you have this array of skills, and there's an algebra to everything. So it's kind of like, as we go through our travels, you know, God is just gonna say, you know, move here and here and here and here and here and here and here. Almost like you're a number. It's like every place where 5 would appear, we're going to put you in and have you do your little thing, whatever is needed in that moment. But then at the same time, there's like an overall sturdiness, or there's I know that personally I've got a singular mission that never wavers. It just never wavers. It's just so solid and so purposeful. And then there are all sorts of these other layers that move constantly. And I'm doing all of those things at once.
Well, you want to know, it's interesting because one of the things that has never wavered in my personal experience is speaking. And so, you know, but I did take some time off from doing that because I was grounding and anchoring after my walk-in experience. It was like, I can't talk to anybody right now. I'm in like 10 different places, you know? And so the fact now that I'm coming more into the body and coming into this experience, and that you and I came together and we're sharing a very twin flame sort of energy. Which again is really purposeful for this specific time in the work that we're doing.
It's like it's kind of like every twin-ish pair has a task. You come together with another person toward a task. And then there's another person you'll come together with toward another task. But it's very topical.
Now,
and both of us recognized what it was. Like that's the thing about twin energy. It's like both parties are you're not gonna have to, let your twin know what your mission is. Your twin is gonna say, oh yeah,
He's gonna know.
I know that already.
Well, and one thing that was on the timeline last year, in June, I was so high that it actually wasn't occurring, but because there is no time, we think things are occurring and they're actually not physically occurring.
Yeah,
so it's like, oh, this is gonna happen. Nope, never happened.
Not this year. Yeah.
Right, not this year. Let's wait another year. So one of the things that was set and plugged in and programmed in to happen on the timeline last June was the coming together of the 144,000. And so the 144,000 being scattered out on the grid, and more coming together, more unions, but also just more like you and I coming together, right? More of us light workers coming together, whether that be physically or on video like this. And so I am feeling this energy coming up of actual physical shifts, physical relocations for some of us, going out onto the grid, having grid work again, and different things. And just like I was telling you yesterday, I had this moment where I was like, well, wait a second. I don't know if I'm ready for work again. Because I've been doing a lot of work in isolation. And now my spirit is like, oh no, you've been doing all this work in isolation to prepare you for the work that you're going to be doing out there next.
Yeah.
It was like, oh, like I could go on that 25 country grid work mission. That was no problem. And then I get like a year and a half of stillness and isolation and a lot of, inner work and work on the timelines. And now I'm being asked to like go back out in the world. And it's like, but it's like, I can't sit in this energy for much longer. And I think a lot of people are starting to feel that way too. It's like, we know that we're letting go of these lower timelines, and that has to happen.
Yes.
Because if we truly are to go to that next level of service or that next level of projects or that next level of coming together, an actual union in the physical.
And make something happen, like to get like,
to do the actions. Actions need to be taken.
Actions,
so it's like we're really coming down, and we got to let go of these older timelines with no fear, of course. But like, okay, well, I can't stay in this because this is uncomfortable. But I can't have fear of what I don't know, because now we're in absolute now moment. Where before, like when I was at my 25 country grid work, it was like, I have my higher self talking to me all the time, or, guides or this or that. It's like, we don't have that anymore.
Right.
And so everything is here now. So it's like, okay, can I go out with my,
everything. Yeah. And then it's just all you. It's like, where are my guys? Like, there's nothing external.
Nobody.
There's
Exactly.
nothing external.
Exactly. Nothing.
And
so now it's different.
I'm lonely.
Yeah. So now it's different because everything is happening from inside, where before it was like those aspects were still fractaled, but we've unionized and pulled all of those aspects within. And now we're in the creator consciousness. We've merged, So going out into the absolute now moment presence, it's like, okay, well, that's like a whole nother way of operating.
Yeah. And everything now is a new, I do want to say something like, I think that we're stabilizing. It occurred to me a while ago that, originally, like when I first started to integrate and to clear, and my energy just I shot out of my body, and it was, how high how much movement there is in the higher dimensions, and I was all over the place. And I think that it was important during that time for my masculine aspect, or my twin. There's a reason that they went into anchoring at the same time that we were floating and just like a hot air balloon, like somebody has to hold it. So it makes sense that you go into duality, polarity. So it's kind of like when you're walking, one of the legs has to remain stable.
Yeah.
It's like one of the legs will do the movement, and then the moving leg holds the space, and the
Yes.
formerly anchored one is the one that then moves, and they trade off, and that's toward a purpose. You can't have everything moving all at once. So it's easy to say, well, I did all the work. I'm not saying you said this, but it seems like a pattern. Like, well, the divine feminine went first, and we did all this work, and the divine masculine stayed, and they just stayed stuck. Well, yeah, because there's, you know, they had to hold the fort down while we went into the cosmos, and now but now it doesn't seem like we're stabilizing, because we've seen the promised land. We know what the higher dimensions are like, and we're very comfortable there. So we don't have that kind of fear. So now we're holding this space of reassurance, like it's okay, you can come. And now they're beginning to process, and all that shit is getting churned up. And I don't know. We're eventually.
Well, no, I mean, we really had to, because, you know, when I think about the feminine, it's like the mother, right? The mother who is birthing a new self, an embodied self, a whole person. We're becoming whole. So we're birthing a new us, which means we're birthing the projection. We're projecting the birth of a new masculine to show up as well in our physical experience, right? And that starts from within. But then we're also, you know, birthing a new reality, which we've been working on and creating from inside, because all of that is created from within and you know, is projected in the outer, right? So it's like, yeah, we had a lot of stuff to do, because the feminine energy is the creation, is the birth, you know, is the one who gives birth to the reality that is being created.
And we're bringing in the divine codes. I do feel like it's I just kind of want to make a I don't know how to say it. When we say we're birthing the new masculine, or I agree, but I also want to kind of make it clear to any masculine who may be watching that it's not like we're telling you how you have to be. There's like, it's like the old programming codes of, you know, where no one's trying to trick them or force them to be like a new way. That's not what it's about. There's a substantial amount of freedom for them to rise into, and there's a lot more freedom and a lot more sovereignty for them, so that, you know, nobody's in opposition. Like, even though they're kind of they're opposition and oppositional forces to a degree in polarity, but there's no enemy and there's no competition. It's actually it's very much a cooperation, and harmony requires different notes. So it's basically we're creating a harmonic that allows
frequency,
the sovereignty of the masculine, as opposed to us being in dominion. In the old programming, there's, you know, if you heard that from kind of if you saw it through the old lens, it would be very much like the old mother matrix, but like, you sit there and do as I say, and that's really the last thing that's happening. It's much more of an invitation to co-creation.
Right. Because we accept everybody just as they are, and we have no will to change anybody, and we see everybody, you know, in their absolute,
there's a freedom. There's an exciting freedom.
And I mean, even in 0 point neutrality, and, you know, all is God on all spectrums of existence. I mean, that's seeing the murderer down the street as God, as a creator being, just as much as anybody else. You know, and so it's just accepting everything as it is.
Doesn't mean you have to clap. I mean, like, there's that weird thing. Like, you have to applaud for pedophilia.
No. But it's just seeing it as, okay, that exists. But what we're doing is taking everything to a higher frequency, so that those things won't repeat in the future. Right? We're clearing out those programs and those energies and you know, the havoc from generational lineages and all of that stuff that keeps creating those types of situations and scenarios, and planting, you know, that those ideas and traumas into people's lives, you
And
know,
we're
so
making
we're
sure
just
that they don't get
recoding all of that.
right. Making sure that those things don't get recreated, so it's freedom for all
Yes.
parties. And so the invitation to the masculine, who and it's so easy. Like you get into these forums, and it's so easy to just hear, you hear things like, oh, the masculine's not awake, and the masculine is sleepy, and the masculine, and fine masculine. There's this energy of they're bad and slow and stupid. And
Yeah, no.
what we're witnessing, really, we're all frustrated with the amount of density that still has left to be cleared. But it's not
Yes.
that they're trapped. It's like have been trapped in cement the same way we were. And
Exactly.
the reason that we're
And they're
so gung-ho to get them out is because we know how much better it is when you're free. And so we're
yes.
just extremely eager to have them. And we're really just issuing an invitation, like, show me what you got. Come on, buddy. Come on. Let's go. It's gonna be fun.
Yeah, because I mean, you know, if we look out as if, you know, they're stuck, or they're with, you know, they're doing this and that, I mean, there's aspects of us that are stuck too.
Oh
You
God,
know,
yeah.
and so it's all of us that are really just trying to like fully break out of all of these old programs, all these things that have been holding us back, all these fears, these densities, you know, these old
Yeah.
programs that are embedded in us, you know, and
And
we have to just.
I would even say that like on that topic exactly, the very aspect of whatever, when you listen to these conversations about the masculine being stuck and the masculine has been taking too long, it's like there always are a mirror, and that very sentence is the stuck part of you if you're the one saying it.
Yes.
So the freedom there, the way you have, it's like that's your handle. That's your handle.
Well,
go in and find the thing that wants to accuse.
Yes.
Like, where are you finding the blame? As soon as you identify something to blame, that's the thing that you gotta grab. Like, harness it in yourself and grab it.
Well, and I think this might, you know, help anybody that listens to this, but you know, one of my ways of like really coming into balance and bringing this union down is in my handy dandy notebook. And I find myself, you know, this is the masculine in me. This is the feminine in me, you know, so I have turned everything onto me. I'm not looking out there at the external person. Granted, sure, I know what the external person is doing, but I'm no longer like, but I've been there. I mean, I've totally been there. But I'm not there anymore, because I know that the more that I am focused here, and what is the masculine inside of me calling for? How can I get to know this masculine inside of myself? How can I get to know this feminine energy inside of myself? How can I blend and balance these two, that I can stay in a flow or keep moving, you know? And I think that's kind of where a group of us are at, because we have been so in the feminine for so long and so high in the dimensions that now we're anchoring this masculine inside of us. And it's like, okay, well, what are we supposed to do now? You know, we're not floating up here anymore. And so it's like getting to know ourselves in a more grounded, balanced, focused action way, as opposed to just hanging out in the higher realms all the time.
It's like you have to find the inner masculine, and rather than loving like the external twin, which you can do too, you have to love the internal twin.
Yes.
And even if, like, I've been out of contact with my twin for 6 years, haven't heard like word one, so I have no idea. And there's no contact. I've got absolutely no idea what the factual thing is out there. And it almost doesn't matter now, because if I can tune in and find that frequency and say, "Aw, you're so cute. You're so cute. I just love the way you are," whatever. And I'm so like, you're totally making shit up. I could turn to myself and say, "You are totally making shit up." And I kind of am. but it doesn't matter because what I'm after is the creating frequency. Because if you can just, oh, that's just the way creation works. You manufacture on the higher, you know this, on the higher dimension, you manufacture something in your mind, and it eventually finds its way into form. It just eventually finds its way into form. So if you want a romance, you've got to marry the two aspects of yourself. And then once you're in a loving frequency, the external world has no choice but to match you if you're you're the creator of everything. So everything is just going to show up in love, 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 love.
Well, now let's take that to the next degree that we were talking about earlier, how our manifestations aren't working the way that they used to.
That's true.
Right?
That's true. And so frustrating.
It's like we might ask for things, but they're not showing up.
It's not the same as it was.
No. And you know, we were talking about this because I think those of us who understand and have activated 12D, and who understand these higher timelines, we can say we have choice, but do we really have choice? Because we're always going to be, you know, moved onto the higher timeline, Well, the higher timeline's already created. It's already there. It already exists. Right. And that's where we're going. And so, you know,
and so we're just bringing it down.
We're just bringing it down to experience it. And that's going to be experienced in the time that it's supposed to be experienced. Right. So if we want to manifest something, who's to say that's even going to manifest? Like, if it's not for us, it's not for us.
It just doesn't work the way we
no.
felt that it did. And who knows? It's possible that it never actually worked the way we thought it did, but we had that experience, and the experience was real to us at the time. It was kind of weird, but it does feel like I've had this experience where I know I made stuff, and it's like when you're way off the timeline and you're experiencing everything in the now, everything feels like you have it. You just have it. And then so you kind of return to the body, and it's like, how come nothing showed up? Well, and then
it used to be so instant.
Go down before it shows up. And you and I had talked about like the spiral nature of time, where we can see this thing approaching, and we can see it. I mean, even if you're not really even if you're in the eternal now, and you're not really having the experience of like that anticipation where you're too far out, even if you're not doing that, you still do have the knowledge that it's coming in, because you can see it and it's going boom, boom, boom. It's getting closer and closer and closer. And then somehow it just like doesn't, and like where the hell did it go? And you and I were talking about like, it's like you're not sure, you know something's coming in, and I've had the exact experience where you know it's coming in, but then the date passed, and it was like, oh God, it was 5 years from now or something, but it's on this date in 5 years.
Yeah, and you forget about it. You know, you forget about it.
And so forget about it. If you're not lucky, you remember every single freaking thing, and you're like, I can't do anything anymore. I used to have mad skills, and they're all gone.
Yeah. Well, no, and you know, talking about the masculine, and you know, I had told you this, but since we're doing the live, I'll share. The other 2 days ago, I was moved to send my masculine a text code, and it was a heart, and it was an 888 code. And so I sent him this code, and I had no, you know, it was just like, boom, I had no expectations. It was just simply like I was being used. I had to send him this activation code, and so I did. And you know, to my surprise, he had FaceTimed me. And when he FaceTimed me, I'm like on a call with you. And so I get interrupted with you, and I got to pick up the call with him, and I'm just like floating. I was just so high. The energy was so high, and I was so activated. And then seeing his face was like, oh, hey, you know. And when he said, well, he's like, oh, so what am I supposed to do with this code? And I was like, I don't know. You know, I might be like a year in the future right now. Like,
you might be now.
Maybe this abundance won't come in for like a year. I'm not really sure, but I was moved to send it to you now. you
It's like,
know?
here's
So,
gravy for the potatoes you're going to eat someday. I saw a vision of you eating potatoes, and I knew you would want gravy, so here you go. You can use it whenever you're hungry, whenever
yeah.
your potatoes show up.
Yeah. Yeah, because we don't, I mean, there's no concept of time, right? So it's like,
Right.
okay, here, it could show up tomorrow. It could show up later on today,
Right.
next year, 2 years. Who knows?
Right.
We don't
It's
know.
very frustrating. And then it's funny because we get called unreliable a lot by people who are still on the time. I'm like, well, you're unreliable. Nobody can count on you. Like, I'm the one who's, oh, I wanted to talk to you about this too. That you and I had talked about this, and I found it so reassuring. I find it very, very reassuring to talk to you sometimes, because sometimes there aren't that many of us. Like, I have a lot of common experiences with a lot of people, but then there aren't so many of us who have gone all the way up.
The way up, yeah.
Where we've made things happen, but it doesn't land for us. But we know that we created things to happen for other people, and they don't know that we did it.
Yes.
Like, you and I have
Yes.
talked about that, and I found that so frustrating. What I created, I created several people to, I took large sums of money and I directed them towards specific people who got them, who said they were going to share it with, like, I knew that I was in a space at the time because of the Joan energy where I was unable to receive at that time because of the energetic lock. And I was a business, for a while, I was business partners with somebody, and I knew we needed money for this project. And so I did all this energy work way in high dimensions, and I sent it to go down to this person. And when she got the money, she's like, all right, well, you take $10,000 and I'm taking like $350,000. I'm leaving. I'll see you later. And she canceled. No, this is true. And she canceled the LLC, and she just like, okay, we're not business partners anymore. I'm like, number one, really bad. That's not classy. That's really bad karma, because we did have a soul contract. And like, you just set off all sorts of timelines, but that's on you. I did the best I could, but I know that in her, what she had said was, well, that was going to come to me anyway. And I know that I'm the one who made that happen. And then I spoke to you, and you have seen the same thing. Like, it comes from somewhere.
It's like, well, and this is the thing. It's like, I'm sitting in this room. Thank God I have, you know, all my needs provided for. But I'm sitting in an isolated space for the past year and a half doing all of this work and all the programming on the timelines. It's like, we're not doing healing work anymore. We've gone beyond the healing.
It's healing, but it's healing for a group. So it's like, it's individual as much.
No, well, we're more so watching. We're watching. We're watching and observing timelines now.
Yes.
It's like, we're kind of present in the physical world, but we're still kind of just like watching.
It's like management.
It is.
Like,
it's like overseeing.
Yeah,
overseeing grids.
Small command. I was searching for a word, and I said something like small commanders, and the word I was looking for was management. It's like, you step into a management role, so you're not really doing the groundwork.
Yeah, we're just like overseeing.
Yes.
And so, you know, I'm sitting in this room thinking that like all these things are going to be happening to me, and I'm watching them happen to everybody else. And I'm just still sitting in this room, you know. It's like, and so, you know, that's what's interesting too.
It really feels like being in a restaurant and being like, I placed an order, and I watched everybody else around me get the meal that I ordered. And then, like, the waitress seems to think that I'm invisible. Like, she can't even see me. Where the hell's my food?
Well, and I think that's a lot of us light workers, because I've seen another person say something about like, well, I'm really good at manifesting abundance for everybody else, but not myself. You know, I'm really good at telling everybody else they're going to receive something.
And they do. But then they don't share.
Well, so I just wonder what that is, because, you know, we got to look at it like, well, I guess we didn't really come here because this isn't about us, because there is no us. This is one God. And so if we are in the creator consciousness, if we're in the God consciousness, if we have merged and unionized with the creator consciousness, we're the ones who are responsible for creating the new hologram, for creating the new reality through the projection of our shared consciousness, right? So the projection is going out. And we would love for maybe somebody to project that back onto us too, you know? Can someone look at me and say, I see abundance in her and I see partnership and a loving relationship in her, you know? It's
so
like,
this is so funny though, because I think that, yeah, what was I just gonna say in my mind? Oh, so like choice points, it's weird that I all of a sudden my mind, I had a point for a second and it just suddenly vanished. What the hell was that? I was talking about like every step being 0 point. Maybe that was it. Every step being 0 point,
yeah.
where you no longer have the luxury at the, like when you go up into every single moment being a moment of creation, you have to be very careful about even saying like what I heard myself say it, and then you were talking, so I didn't go back and correct myself. But when I said something like it doesn't show up for us or something, I don't get anything. That's the kind of thing that when you go up in service in a level, you suddenly have to be absolutely immaculate with your wording, absolutely immaculate with your thinking, and you have to sometimes do things which sound like you're lying, because it's not, you know, like I am rich, and not even rich is abundant, but I am abundant, like or whatever, money shows up for me, or whatever, you know what I mean. You have to state something and believe it real, feel it real, and have that
Become
experience.
it. You become it. And you know, it's like,
Before it's palpable.
Well, and the thing is that I have manifested some amazing, beautiful, beautiful things, and manifested everything that I've ever needed without having to put a price tag on anything.
Right.
And without having to actually like do physical work, because that's not my job, right?
Right
And
now your job is energetic. It's not working.
And that's, no,
Yeah.
and so we've been provided for to be able to do this work, but now if it's like going to this next level feels more abundant. It feels like, well, and I've always been responsible, you know, so it's like I can hold and steward more abundance than just the bare necessities. But, you know, then it's sometimes I go into this consciousness like, well, is that really the way that we're going, or are we always going to live in zero, an instant manifestation?
I think it's somehow both. I think it's both. Like I'm at the position right now where I would like a house. Do I have what I need to live? Yes, but my daughter is 14 and she needs a room. She doesn't have a room right now. She needs a room. She's 14. There are certain things that you just like. On some level, like you and I, was it you and I were talking about, like Rick Jewers, where it's one thing to say, oh, you only need as much for the next step, and I'm being good-natured but you're living in a camper that's held together with duct tape, and at some level, come on, can we not do better than this?
Well, right, yeah, no, I agree.
For the world, not just for each one of us, but can we provide something that's actually spacious and comfortable, so that we're not constantly saying,
and affordable and sustainable, and
it's enough.
Yeah.
I can live on a grain of barley. You know, I can be a breatharian and live on air, but I want like a meal. You know, and on some level, you can have both of those things. There's a point in the journey where you only need as much as the next step, and enough of us, or maybe not enough of us, maybe there should be more of us in that too. There are those of us, like Lawrence Wendell has talked about that too, where you only need as much as the next step, and you only need enough to get by. True. All of this is true. But I also want to go to Disneyland. I want something better. There's abundance, but then there's a way to do both. There's a way to do both. I want an actual home and a garden, so that I don't, you know, like the landlord just
and we're not in that energy anymore.
Pots with tomatoes, and it's a weird clash of
well, because we're not in the energy.
right
Yeah, we're not in the energy of like, well, I have to go out and make this happen. We
Right.
can't do that. We cannot go outside and make something happen in order to have an experience.
Because
Now
it'll change
we're,
the immune system. Yeah.
yeah, you know,
It's going
now
to destroy the integrity.
everything is magnetized, everything is manifested, everything
Yes.
is about alignment, everything is about this balance and this harmony, and you know, working in alignment with the soul, the being that's, you know, in the body, allowing this pure source to move through us. And so it's like we can't go out and force something to happen anymore. That's not in our nature. So we have to sit and we have to take the inspired actions and the movements that flow through us, but there can't be any force. And so
Inspired action.
and it's going back into that neutrality place, because you know, you think about people who do have a lot of money and abundance in the world, but you know, if they didn't have anything, would they be happy? Would they be able to hold neutrality or balance if they went on the other end of the scale?
Right.
Right. So
It's really about that. Like,
so
money
it's
could
about
make
what we
you
said.
happy.
It doesn't matter what side of the scale you're on, but there
Exactly.
should be these qualities within each vessel of love and compassion and service and neutrality and balance and giving and openness. And you know what I mean? It's like,
Yep.
we should see that on both ends of the scale.
It's essential. It's essential. That's one of those essential things where you can't, where, yeah, I'm agreeing with you completely. Where if you're in a place where any external circumstance would affect your sense of well-being, you're not there yet. You're
Yes,
just
exactly.
not there yet.
Exactly. Because, you know, we're in spaces too, and I've been in this space for a long time because I've been in isolation, but I can't even go out to do anything if I'm like, oh, well, I just want to be around people, or, oh, I just want to like go to a funny movie because I'm not feeling very happy today. I can't even do those things. I don't do those things because it's like that movie isn't going to change anything. That
Right.
me meeting with somebody else isn't going to change anything. No, I'm just going to have to sit in it because if it's actually aligned for me to go meet or to go to an event, then that's in alignment. But I'm not going to go just because I need to fill something
It's like a
inside of me.
drug.
It's
At that point,
done.
it becomes
That's
experience
done.
like a drug. Where
It's
it's like, I
done.
need somebody to make me happy, therefore that's what purpose that person is filling for you. That's
Yeah.
not it. That's not
No.
it. And in
No.
fact, if you were to do that, it would further tank your alignment.
Exactly.
You know, it would
Yes.
be like feeding an addiction,
Yes.
a codependency or something. It would be feeding the wrong thing.
Mm-hmm.
So
Even if it's something as simple as like going out to meet somebody for coffee, it's like, okay, well, I've been sitting by myself in kind of an isolated space for a couple days and I just want to get out of here. So let me just contact somebody and go meet for coffee because I don't want to sit here anymore. But like, no, I can't do that. It actually has to be in alignment and purposeful for me to go have the coffee. Because if it's not, then I'm doing it for the wrong reason.
Right.
Then I'm doing it because I'm frustrated with the fact that my soul wants to keep me on lockdown. Right.
Yeah.
And so it's like figuring out this alignment thing, really,
And it's such
and
a
staying in it.
departure. That is such a major, I agree with you completely, but that's such a departure from the conditioning. That's why, like, so many of us who are on this path have, even if we even have any people around us left anymore, everybody in our whole life would say, you know, that's wrong, or we're just going to be seen as doing the wrong thing, or, you know, you got to go out and you got to get the thing and you got to,
right.
or
The escapism.
Action, but it has to be purposeful action.
It has to be purposeful. It has to be inspired action now. It's like we can't do anything that's not.
Not
exactly.
To fill a void. And the
no.
way I see it too is
or
that
to run or to escape.
Yes. And there, like right now, there's a period of refinement. And we're doing this in an individual basis. We're doing it as a collective. There's this alchemical cauldron of transformation where you can no longer feed the wrong things. You no longer have that luxury. We used to have the luxury of avoidance or
yes,
but now it's like
escapism.
The wire, and it's like you don't have that time, and you can't afford to use any external thing to escape your task. You got to pay attention to what you came here for and do your job, but you got to do it for, you know, you have to be inspired or moved to do it.
You want to know what? Somebody came to me one time, a friend, and she was like, because I've always, I mean, since I've been 6 years old, I have spent all of my time in the spiritual realms. I haven't had, it's like I haven't had a choice. Like that's just me. Like I was just put here to be here
You
and to
came
do the
in with
work.
a job.
You know, I came here with a job, and that is it. And I will do that job. And since I've been 6 years old, I can remember I've spent a lot of time in my room. No matter where I am. I went on a 25 country mission, wherever my villa was or my hut or whatever. Yeah, sure. I would go out. I would connect with people. If I was moved, I would have my, you know, meals or whatever out places. But even I'm in this other country, I'm not out sightseeing. I wasn't there to sightsee. No, I wasn't there to sightsee. It was like my vessel just had to be on this grid point. And so me sitting in a more isolated space is just me being present, doing the energy work. But, you know, and the grid work and whatever I'm called to do through my vessel. But a friend of mine came to me however long ago, and she's like, well, are you sure you're not just like escaping into the spiritual world because you don't want to be a part of the physical world? And I said, no, that's not it at all. Because there is a big part of my personality that loves being social.
Right.
And I do have leadership qualities, you know, going out into the world and being around people. And, you know, I've done teachings and workshops and this and that. And so I do have a very like social, I do want to be out and connect with others. But the majority of my work requires the isolation. But now we're not even like in the spiritual realms like we used to be.
So you're just in service at a more
grounded
level.
Yeah. And so it's just it's like, but I'm still the same person in a lot of ways. You know what I mean? And we can't change who we are.
I remember my father saying to me one time, like I was never actually gonna be a nun, but I remember saying something to my father, who was not a spiritual person, couldn't stand religion, and I'm not a big fan of organized religion either. But I remember having this conversation where he told me one time that if I were to become a nun or something, he would be terribly ashamed of me because it was nothing but escaping from the real world.
Yes.
I remember thinking, you don't know what, I didn't say this. I think at the time I was something like 10 or 12, but I remember thinking, just knowing, I didn't say it to him, but I remember thinking, you do not know what you're talking about. You know nothing. Because if I wanted to escape, I would go to a movie and I would go and interact in all the busyness and keep the radio on and keep the TV on, like and keep constantly interacting with all sorts of, and like I remember knowing that when I was about 11. But if you really want to confront reality, go inward, and then you'll face some shit, man. I remember really knowing, like, this is nothing like an escape. This is service like you'll never do if you're out in doing. Although, having said that, I do recognize there's always this weird balance of polarities, because we all do want like the masculine to take action. Like that is a complaint, and I feel it. I feel that too. Like, get off your ass, buddy. Let's move it. I do feel that too.
Well, but now, you know, now within us, within the feminine, and because I'm, you know, again, it's like I'm noticing within myself, I'm not doing the work high in the dimensions and in the spiritual realm anymore. I'm coming more into a grounded place, into a balanced place. And so I'm curious to see what my work looks like now moving forward, because, you know, I do have a powerful presence. I do have my history of grid work, my history of
and programming too.
Everything.
That's
and programming and
coding work is going to be too.
Yeah, and all of this stuff. And so it's like, you know, and I want to work on a project. I want to oversee a project. I know that's like something that's in me.
Sometimes you really do just want fun. You want
to be a part of the physical.
Yes.
It's like you want to be more integrated into the physical. You want to be more a part of the physical. But me going to work at a company for 40 hours a week full time, that's not me coming back into society. That's not how I'm supposed to come back into society.
Right.
And so now it's like, okay, well, what am I going to do? Where am I going to be placed? Because I want to merge back into the physical. I want to work in a different way if that's what I'm supposed to do.
Do you
But I
think
don't know
so?
what that looks like yet.
It feels to me like I'm not you, and I don't know your vision, but it seems to me like you've got this skill set. Like I know that I came in with a particular skill set where my specialist ability is multidimensional harmonics, which can be applied to war or orchestration or living systems. But it's like I've got the skill set that's what I do, and I'm only sent on a task to take my skill set, basically take me and apply it. And it seems to me like you've got a really great skill set where you're a programmer. You program new codes. You're a creator of what the template is going to look like. And every
Yes.
place you touch down, it seems to me like you were doing coding when you were
From
in the higher
high,
dimension.
yes.
But now it seems to me what it looks like. I'm not saying this is absolutely true, but I'm like proposing it as a possibility, and you tell me what you think. Like when you go into, it's almost like you are the new code, and then you
Yeah.
go into the bank, and you don't even have to go there for a long time, but you just are there with your presence, and small choices install the new pattern and kind of anchor it, or I don't even have a word. I almost said adherence, but it's not that. It's like you establish firmly in the physical, you embody the new template or the new code, and then you're moved to take another step and in another it's like another creative action. And the thing that I love about the way you like work in the world is that moment to moment, step by step, you know how to make choices just moment to moment that establish the new template. And I kind of think that you take the code and now you're embodying the new code so that it's anchored into the world, so that when you're asked to travel, you're just asked to travel to take the new code to establish it wherever it needs to be. So I think your job is the same.
It's similar. I don't know what it looks like. Like when I went into the bank, it was like I merged with the system. It was like I went into that God consciousness, and in that moment I merged with the entire system. And like that whole day, it was like, whoa, okay. I mean, it was on a whole nother level. It was very advanced.
But I love
very,
that
very
you
advanced.
went into the bank and you merged with the money, but then you've done all of these little aspects. For those of you who didn't hear the previous call, where we were talking about the financial system too, I know we said this before, but I'll just repeat it. Like you've taken your instant manifesting ability, and your trust. The fact that you're able to walk in trust, that's really the key thing. You're taking the new financial system, and it's not even more, it's more than the financial system. You're taking this vibrational, the higher trust. You're taking spirit consciousness, the whole way that works, the divine template, and you're bringing that down into all of these little areas, these little aspects.
To merge that.
Yes, it's like you went into the bank and you brought your energy there and you just touched it and it did something. And you went into like the casino and you brought the energy of trust into the place where like that entire place is just ripe with the area of desperation and risk and fear. So there's like risk and fear, and you change the energy by virtue of touching down and establishing like, here is trust instead.
Oh yeah.
And so it's going to go. And so I said this before on our call. It's the analogy that comes to mind when I think of what your energy does, when I look at the way your energy stream interacts with these compressed, locked-in systems. I said it's like if you have a straw that's in a wrapper and you kind of push the wrapper down on the straw and you take the straw out, you're left with this crinkly wrapper. It's like if your energy is just a dropper and you just drop a little drop of water, like you get this immediate expansion. Wherever you show up, it's an expansion. And then so you go into the bank and you go into the casino and you go into like all of these different places, and all of a sudden everything is expanded and you've just changed the whole financial system.
Well, you know, and so there's that dynamic, but then there's also the dynamic of me understanding my manifestation ability on another level, right? Because when you merge with the consciousness, when you merge with the system, you're the one who's doing it, right?
Yes.
So for example, like when I was in the casino that day, I saw in my third eye a very specific machine that I was supposed to go sit on. And it was like the spirit moved me in that moment. Okay, I have to go to that machine. And so literally as I walk over there, the woman's getting up from the machine, right? Like instantaneously, she's getting out of the seat and I'm going to sit in that seat. And so I'm watching myself be moved to go through this entire experience. So I sit down, and because I'm in neutrality and I don't care, doesn't matter if I lose the money or if I gain the money, right? Because I have no attachment to the money, and it's been this way for me for a very, very long time. This has been my entire path, has been around money. And so, so I'm sitting there, and it hits like $80 in like however many minutes that I was sitting there, you know. So I ended up taking the $80 and I just watched myself, but there was no attachment or connection, and it was all very specific. Like everything that I do with numbers and codes and money is very, very, very specific. And this has just been my path, and so I'm definitely coding and programming all the time through every little detail, just like you said. So even though I might not understand it, I know there's a bigger picture behind it and why I'm doing it, and I'm just the vessel that's been used to do it the way that I've been do it. Like I'm sure there's other people that are doing things in a certain way too, and it's just a part of it, you know. This is what I'm being used for.
So what I like about what you said too is that you watched yourself, you watched your reaction when that happened. And that's so important. Like there's a lot of people whose focus would be on, oh, I just won the money, you know, and they would immediately focus on that instead of what effect it had on them.
Yes, or it didn't move me either way.
Exactly.
Because when you're in that space of understanding that it is all an illusion and that it's all happening because you're creating it, but it's being created on a higher level, and because you're merged with it, it's just a different experience. And it's like you can try to explain this to somebody, but until you actually go to that level and you merge with the consciousness, you have to experience it for yourself.
And what I like
you just have to go there.
Yeah. What I like about it too is that you think about like your reaction when you win money, your reaction is planting a seed so that that energy is going to expand out and change the future reaction of everybody else in the casino that's going to help. I hesitate to say help them, but it's not about helping them, but it's about changing that
the dynamics,
decompressing, so that it's not such a like fear, joy, you know, whiplash,
anxiety, depression, stress.
Yes, stress. Yeah. So like you're deprogramming and reprogramming that in that entire system, which I love. So what would you say to somebody who might hear this conversation and say something like, and this would clearly be kind of like an old programmed person. What would you say to somebody who would say, well, if you know how it works and you have no job, you know, why don't you just go to the casino and play if you know what's going to happen, why don't you just stay at the casino and make all this money?
Well, because that wasn't the point. Because that wasn't the point. Right? So that was never, because it wasn't about me. Right?
Exactly.
It wasn't, because there is no me. I'm the consciousness. I am the creator. I'm the consciousness.
You were in service.
So I was in service to the experience. And so it was about having the experience, doing whatever I needed to do. And then that actually collapsed. Like now, like I have there's nothing moving me to go there anymore. It's done.
Right.
And so
Right.
now I'm not even going to go. Like,
Right.
because it's not about me going there to manipulate, to manifest. That's
And
not what
yeah,
it's
and
about.
it's so interesting. It's like, you
And it
don't
was
have to
never
keep
about that.
right. And you don't have to keep planting the same flower. You
No.
planted the flower once, and
Yep.
now you just know it's going to grow. And so
And
now
I go on to the next thing.
something else.
Mm-hmm. Go on to the next assignment, because
Out of
that's
curiosity,
not
how
what
much
it's
did
about.
you win that day? How much was it? You said something about 77, and I thought that was funny too. Wasn't it 77?
No, that was last night. Last night was I had to lose some money in order to get the numbers to 7777, because it was about the numbers. It wasn't about me
Right.
losing the money. It was about the codes.
And
And
7
so,
being the spiritual path, like, you know,
and
representative.
the miracle and the
Yep.
manifestation. And yeah, because right now we've been in like sevens and eights, but we're also in 2s and 3s.
Mhm.
And so in one dimension in one dimension right now, we're in the 2 and the 3 energy, and we're in the 7 and the 8 energy, which is actually interesting. Change 5 being in the middle.
Right.
4 and 6 are kind of obsolete, and then the 2 pair on the outer is the 2 and 3 and the 7 and the 8. Balance.
Right.
Balance.
Right. And it always goes,
Okay.
it always winds up somehow going back to like a little bit going back to the twin. It's never about the twin. It's never about the twin, but somehow it's always about the twin. You've got this damn divine paradox that just shows up.
Right. Yeah, and so so the message that I got today, my inner being is telling me, because I'm in the foreign exchange currency trading, which I've talked about on the previous video.
Yeah.
This is a means to an end.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know what that means.
Right. Yes.
But I am in this. I'm in this for a reason. Just like I was moved at the casino for a specific amount of time, I am now infiltrating this system, and it is a means to an end, and I don't know what that means. I'm not attached to it, but there's something that I'm doing with that system.
Right.
And that's just it. And I'm just being used, you know? So one day things will make sense, I hope.
Right. Exactly.
It's like, what is all of this? What's all this for?
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly.
But
so,
yeah, okay. So I think we should end on that note.
Yeah, I think that
we've been going for, I think, like an hour and a half or something.
Okay, cool.
Unless you have anything else to say.
I don't. I do feel though that I don't want to make any predictions, but it does seem like now that we know how to do a call with the two of us on the phone, we're sharing the screen on a live stream. I feel like there will be more on this topic. I just there are
we're always evolving. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're always evolving with this. And you and I have been partnered and paired and working together on this for a reason. We don't even know why we were moved together, and then it just like sparked and took off.
It was so fast. And for those of you who are listening, I was toying with the idea. To the best of my understanding, to the best of my knowledge, there aren't any 5D economic groups on Facebook that deal specifically with the financial system, and I was thinking of possibly starting one. If you have any interest in that, go to my wall and or send me a text message or something if you know of any, because I would kind of like to either join an existing one or have one exist, which I would start if other people are interested. Otherwise, a lot of us kind of float around. It seems to be a lot of there seems to be a lot of interest about this topic. There are must be thousands of twin flame groups, but I'm not sure that there's necessarily one about the new financial system as opposed to whatever. Just wondering.
Okay, I'm just getting some awareness, and this was on the timeline last year at the end of June. It's like I'm so programmed that I remember all the specifics. one of the things was everything we need will appear.
Yes.
So this is kind of going on what he said, right? So it's like, if you don't need the new home, or if your spirit says you don't need that in this moment, you're not going to manifest it.
Exactly.
Right? If your spirit is saying, well, you don't need the $1,000 in this moment, so you're not going to manifest it.
Until
So it's
you
like,
need it.
Until it's necessary, and your higher self is going to make sure that that shows up at the exact time that it's supposed to. But we can no longer create just for the sake of creating. It has to be very purposeful and very specific and used for something. You know, so it's like yeah, it's just, it's almost like we can say, oh, we're going to call it in, but if it's not time to come in, it's not time to come in, and there's nothing we can do about that.
Right.
There's something that's still happening within us that's moving to then match that, like we were talking about, right? Like, okay, well, now you're ready for it, so let's bring it in. But we had to get you ready inside and energetically for that to come up and for that to come in.
And it's going to show up really fast when it does. Like, once you're in alignment, there is no delay. Something just shows up, and it's going to be like, wow, that just, like a house just showed up, and somebody said, here, you can move into this today. It's going to have the features that you needed. It's amazing that way.
Yeah, because that reminds me, and I don't think I touched upon this in this video, but really quick, that reminds me of what I told you I experienced yesterday. You know, I had this experience of, well, I'm not ready. I'm not ready to let go of my grandmother. I'm not ready to, and that was just me thinking like she would, you know, pass away. I'm not ready to let go of her. I'm not ready to work, because in my some sort of space, it's like, do I have to go work a 40-hour-a-week job? Like, am I going back into the world to like work in business or something? You know, so there's like this resistance to like, well, I don't want to work, and I don't even know what the work is. But there's something in me that's not ready for the work. And I think it's because I don't know what the work is. If I knew what the work was, then I could kind of like plan and prep and be prepared for it. But I don't know what it is.
On the timeline, which is why which is why it's all about internal adjustment.
Yes, so I'm adjusting, you know, and then that was the second thing, and then the third thing was I'm not ready to let go of my masculine.
Right.
Because there's something that says, okay, well, if I go to this next level, and if I go into work, that means if whatever that work looks like, then I have to let go of.
Is he coming?
Every idea.
Is he coming? Is he coming? Is he
well,
coming?
Right, and I have to let go of every single attachment or expectation to any outcome. I have to let go of any dream, you know, because me still kind of staying in this space is like, oh, well, I'm riding this timeline, you know, and I'm here, and you know, these things are going to come together. But no, there's something in me that's like, I'm not ready. And but since yesterday, since I admitted to myself that there was something inside me that just wasn't ready to like let go of some of these lower timelines, today I shifted, and it was like, okay, now I'm actually really preparing to physically let go of them. And I don't know what that means, you know. That doesn't necessarily mean that my grandmother is going to pass away. I could just be letting go of her in this experience and me helping her right now. You know, me letting go of my masculine doesn't mean that it's not going to come back around in the future. It just means maybe I got to let go of it right now because I have work to do.
To make an adjustment. It can be something like in the letting go is the thing that you need to just achieve so that it can come in.
Yes.
Like, that's the thing. It's gonna, like, you might even still get that exact thing or that exact dream, which it's like your soul recognizes truth. And some of us have this, sometimes you have a foreknowledge that is less of an expectation or a need or like a sucking thing, like you're trying to draw it to you, but just you simply can see what's coming. Like, I personally don't know how to turn those senses off. I really don't. And sometimes I can just see, I'm just very aware that something is in my future, and that's it. And that doesn't mean, but whatever. It seems like in the letting go it's still only a matter of adjusting something in the internal so that you're perfectly aligned, so that the thing you always knew was coming in can come in. You know.
But again, it's like, we don't have any control over it, yet we do because we're the creator. You know what I mean?
So
it's It is, but
weird that way.
there's so much going on inside, and that's why nothing is manifesting on the outside, because all of this inside has to shift and work itself out and align, right? Align further.
And all,
Because
all of these levels are happening. Like another thing that I did, I love the way you had explained it at one point when we were talking about that all of these levels are like it. All of these levels, different things are happening at different levels. So sometimes it sounds very contradictory. Sometimes when I can hear it in myself when I'll say something like, this is true, and the opposite is also true. And both things are true, but they're happening in different places, in different dimensions. And some are on the timeline and some are not. So, but both are happening. So if I say, well, you know, we are getting together at the same time, we're not. It only depends on where you are. If you go to a different location, there's something different happening. And then if you go to another location, a different thing is happening, and both things are happening at the same exact time. It's only a matter of where you are. So there you go.
Yeah. Yeah.
And on that
Beautiful.
note,
Okay. On that note. Okay. Perfect. Well, thank you. Yeah. And thank you to everybody who joined us or listening in now or in another moment of now. And we'll do this again.
Yeah. Bye.